Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guests' careers to invaluable advice that fueled their success. We're here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insights and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Today we're thrilled to have Caleb Jenkins, the 2024 Insightful Accountants Pro Advisor of the Year, and a consistent figure in the top 40 under 40 in the accounting profession, being highlighted there since 2016, every year since. Caleb has revolutionized the business financial management by emphasizing tax reduction, accounting automation, and strategic clarity. His commitment extends beyond his business achievements, actively contributing to various advisory boards and applying his expertise to assist nonprofits in developing countries. Join us as we delve into Caleb's impactful journey and explore the innovative approach to accounting and finance. Caleb, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here with you, Zane.
Yeah, it is such an honor to have you, and we're going to talk a lot about your accounting career because one, I think it started when you were like 3 years old, which is pretty interesting to take on. But what is more exciting for me is everything that you do outside of the accounting world and all the inspirational work that you do that makes such a big difference in so many people's lives. And I got to speak at Scaling New Heights this year, and you sort of spoke about making that difference to people around you, which I found incredibly inspiring and the best session I attended at Scaling New Heights. And not even from any other point, it just made me feel really good. And at the time, made me feel a little bit guilty that I maybe need to do more in my community.
Well, it wasn't intended to make somebody feel guilty, but rather to inspire people to greatness. And so it was mostly just sharing a little bit of my journey, and it's a passion topic of mine. So whenever I have the opportunity to talk about it and inspire somebody else, that's what I love to do.
I mean, it was good guilt as well, right? Like there's guilt where it's like, oh man, this guy's making me feel bad, and more I try and do as much as I can for my community, but there is more that I can give. And, sometimes maybe I just sort of have to put off, I can work 1 hour less and give 1 hour back more. And I think that's a good walk away from a session. So I want to jump into your accounting career, but first, I want to list off, like, for you people that don't know Caleb, this guy is incredible. I mean, I'm just going to roll off some of these, different accomplishments. Enrolled agent, 2024 Pro Advisor of the Year, 2016 to 2024 Top 100 QuickBooks Pro Advisors, 2016 to 2024 Top 40 Under 40, 2016 Top Up-and-Comer Pro Advisor, 2016 Philanthropic Excellence Award winner. Like it's a never-ending list of awards, and it's really impressive. And mostly because the point it's, if you meet Caleb, it's not like he's shoving it down your throat. He's just a very humble person that is always looking to make good connections, take some time to talk to people, and really make a difference around it. But how did you get into this world of accounting? How did you decide that this is what I wanted?
So I got started when I like you kind of let it. It's maybe a little bit not totally factually true. I didn't start at 3 years old, but not, it wasn't too far off in the sense that my dad had an accounting firm. So the first 10 years of my life, my dad's office was two separate buildings. There was the front office and the back office, but at our home location. And I was homeschooled growing up. And so when I was finished with school for the day, I would go out, and a lot of time, not every day, but a lot of times I'd find my way back out into the office, and there was always stuff to do, maybe just annoying to the other employees, but I mean, things such as shredding and client filing and different other things. So I enjoyed all those components of interacting with the team, getting involved with it. For a couple of years, I actually thought about I don't know, you might call it fantasy of being a medical doctor or whatever, but that quickly faded, and it kind of just came back to my home roots of how I was raised, whatever, and opportunity was to get started full time. Again, I'd kind of done off and on periodically from an early age, but officially started in 2008, and went from there forward. So it's been a fun journey ever since.
That is so interesting because, if I ask my kids who are 7 and 8 at the moment, what do I do? They sort of know I'm an accountant, but for them it'll be like, oh, you work with wine, which, it's not factually true, but it's close enough. They've got no idea what I'm doing. Like, they see me in front of a laptop. They don't really ask too many questions. But I guess back then, a lot more, there were paper files, which, I'm old enough to have worked on paper files and know what that's all about. And, I did the vacation work when I was in college, and 4 hours of shredding paper was a definite pastime. But intriguing that you sort of got involved in that, your dad sort of let you get involved. I'm sure that the team members were very happy to have you doing that junky work that they probably didn't want to do. So annoying at times, but very thankful at other times, I'm sure. But I mean, did your dad encourage it, or was it just sort of out of your own, like this is what, like that's where you wanted to be at times?
What's funny on to one of your comments there is I loved that junk work earlier on. Like it was so much fun. Like looking back, it was so stupid, but like I loved the 8 hours of shredding. Like, oh, sweet, there's a mountain of work that I got to get done, and let's see how fast I can get it done.
Yeah.
Or then it transitioned from there into QuickBooks Desktop of entering 1,000 transactions from your credit card statement. It was a race to see how fast I could get them entered and et cetera. I loved that type of work early on. But to your question of did my dad encourage it? I'm sure behind this curtain he did, but not something where he pushed for it outwardly. It was more so like I enjoyed it. He recognized that, and I probably was more pushing on my end to, hey, like, is there something more that can be done? And then finally, after I had been doing it kind of more officially, our internal HR lady, she's like, hey, we probably need to get Caleb on payroll. And so I was like, I wasn't going to turn that down. So that became my official start time. And from that point forward, it did turn into more full-time work.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. When did you officially get on the payroll? What age were you?
So probably too young, but it was my dad's firm
Yeah.
too. So I was 14.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's youngish, but not that young. I mean, there's
Yeah.
forms that you can fill out to sort of, work your way around that. But weird that the proprietor's the parent, but I'm sure there's
Yep.
workarounds around all of that.
And I wasn't doing anything. At the time I wasn't doing any overtime or anything that would have been
Yeah.
problematic in that sense. So
Yeah, it still blows my mind. I mean, I just think back on like when I was that age and the jobs that I was doing. I mean, I was fitting tires. I was working, backstage at concerts and stuff and putting stuff together. I would have never even thought about accounting. I mean, I did it as a subject in high school, but I didn't really know what it meant at that point in time. I mean, I probably got like 2 years through my college qualification, still didn't really know what I was signing up for. So it's fairly unique, even with people who have parents that are accountants, for their children to actually understand what they're doing and what the job involves. And I think mostly, because as a parent myself, I'm like, I wouldn't be upset if my kids are accountants, but go be whatever you want to be, right? Like,
right.
don't just be an accountant. I know it's a great job. I know it's a stable job. There's a lot of opportunities that come from it, but dream big. Go be whatever you want. So it is interesting that you got so involved, but I love that you were the person who wanted to do it, which is really exciting for me.
Yeah, and I could say to the point of did my dad push for it? The answer was absolutely be no, because all my siblings, none of them wanted to do it. None of them were. I mean, maybe a little bit. Two of my sisters that were like needed during tax season a couple of years, and they might not have chosen to officially, but like it was temporary work and whatever.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like none of my other siblings. I have a fairly large family. I have 7 siblings, and so, but yeah, they like all 4 of my brother or 3 of my brothers. There's 4 of us guys. None of them have ever worked in the office. Never had any desire to work in the office. All 3 of them primarily ended up on the farm, which is part of my background too. But yeah, that would be, I could say honestly, like none of us were pressured to join and work inside this. The other point was, how did I really get interested in it? And I would say a lot of that was more passive in the sense that I loved computers growing up as a kid. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my brothers mostly enjoyed being outside playing in the orchard or playing in the yard or whatever, but I enjoyed playing on the computer, so I made countless business cards via print shop program with Microsoft, whatever, just like I had dreams and did whatever there. I would play on Microsoft Flight Simulator and loved the flight programs, whatever there. I don't know, maybe some other games too, but like early on then too, my mom had QuickBooks on our home computer in our house, and uh, she would struggle with doing bank reconciliation. She had a couple like very micro side business things that she was involved in, and my dad had that on our home computer. And so, because I loved the computer, she would occasionally ask me to help her out with something on it when she couldn't figure it out. So I kind of just naturally learned QuickBooks through my mom,
Mm-hmm.
not even so much through my dad. And it was soon after that that I started baking cookies for my dad during tax season. And he's like, "Hey, for me to pay you, I need an invoice." And so I started tracking my own books on QuickBooks, and I'm like, "Hey, I don't want to mix my personal and business together." I watched some help videos and read some help articles and whatever, and like so I created a class to keep my cookie business separate from my personal stuff, and yeah, that away from there. So I mean, I would say my dad put things in front of me and gave me opportunities, and that's one of the biggest blessings that I could point back to, is that he didn't hinder my path towards growth on what I was doing.
Well, I mean, what I'm hearing is that one, you have a pretty entrepreneurial family. Your dad had the accounting business, your mom had her side businesses going, the farming side of it all happening. And what I hear from this is that your parents encouraged you to sort of take accountability for who you are, take opportunities, try be entrepreneurial yourself. And hey, that turned you into an accountant. That's fine. That's still, it's still, you can still be a business owner and accountant. But it feels like they set you up with some really great business skills, which more kids should have, right? I mean, I think we work with business owners. I'm sure you wish the same way as I do that they had more business skills built into them.
Yeah, one of the things that they drilled in, maybe to a fault early on, but was that the aspect of being a leader rather than a follower.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to understand that if you're a follower, you're always going to be subject to the whims and wishes and desires of everybody else. But if you're a leader, then you can design your own path, and others more or less will fall in line with and people like to follow somebody that has vision, that has direction in their life, and with their direction in their career, with their business. And what a lot of people leave businesses because there's no vision in the business, there's no direction with where that business is headed. So, I definitely credit them for that too.
So you eventually finished high school and then decided to go get your accounting qualifications?
Yeah, so I in high school, and again, I was homeschooled, so I had a lot of creativity or flexibility in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how I could design. One of the things I loved is I would do like a week's worth of math in one morning, and then the next day I would do a week's worth of grammar and a week's worth of whatever other subjects, history and etc. And what I loved about that is I could like go really deep on something and go very far, rather than just scatter my attention focus across all these 20 different subjects or 7 different subjects or whatever. I did that more in high school, but then the latter 2 years of high school, I did dual credit with both college classes online and high school stuff at home. So that piece of it, I got racked up quite a few different business classes and accounting classes and economic classes and et cetera. In that process, actually I never finished with a graduate or with a bachelor degree or anything. I've pondered that frequently over time as I've continued in life. Two of the reasons why I didn't was one of the, or actually probably three simultaneous reasons, but one of them was I struggled with some of the non-accounting, non-business, non-economic classes, a lot of the other general ed. One of them was a class called Analyzing and Interpreting Literature that I took and failed 3 times. And
Gosh.
supposedly it was a required class for the degree path of accounting for the school I was going through. And I'm like, or the online college, and I'm like, it was a terrible type of a class. Finally, they said, hey, you could take an alternative one instead of this one. But like, I'm not a bad student.
Yep.
Typically, but it wasn't something I was interested in. Today, I'm probably actually far more interested in literature than I ever was then. I just wanted to take my accounting classes. I wanted to take my business classes. I wanted to take my economic classes, and I thrived in those ones. Scored very well in all of those types of classes. It was just and like even history. I love history, but I wasn't focused on history then. So I failed 1 or 2 history classes too. And so some of that was a little bit of a challenge. Whenever you fail something, it doesn't boost your spirits very much. So there's that component, but I would say the bigger component was the middle component is I was also working pretty much full time at this point too. And so that made it hard to do college kind of full time and high school, or I was pretty much finished with high school by this point, but then working full time and college full time, and then social and church and all the other types of stuff full time too. So that made it difficult, but probably the biggest reason that I stepped away from it is I was going down the degree path because I was going to go the route of being a CPA, which is what everybody did. But I stepped away from it for 2 reasons. One was at that point, which was, I don't know, probably 12 years ago at this point, maybe 13, I don't remember exactly, but I'm like, is a CPA really going to continue to be the lock on the profession that it was at that point? And the 2 reasons that I thought about was technology advancement is the biggest one. So as even at that point, like it was maybe very early rumblings, but there was some talk in the area of artificial intelligence. Like you had to listen intricately for it, but like you heard it in very sophisticated talks or whatever. But it's like, hey, that's going to revolutionize the work that we do. And is that going to keep the lock on the profession? And the second piece is I could do everything that I wanted to do without a CPA because I never wanted to do audit to begin with. So it's like the EA gave me the tax side, and then QuickBooks knowledge gave me the product experience. Plus, I would consider that I learned accounting by using QuickBooks. Right backwards. I didn't learn the textbook approach first. I learned the program, and the program taught me the textbook. And when I did the textbook stuff, it was a piece of cake. Because I had already pictured in my mind everything about accounting, from journal entries to balance sheet versus profit and loss, the debits and credits. Like even to this day, I still picture my debits and credits looking at my balance sheet and profit and loss side by side in my mind. And I think about it, and I think about my assets up here, my liabilities down here, and my income, and then my cost of goods sold and expenses. And I have in my mind a X linking the two together, and it's a piece of cake, man. As long as you do that, then all of it just kind of falls in line. And I mean, it's far more complex than that, but that's the simple of it. So,
I mean, the big secret is it isn't much more complicated than that. But it's I always find that the difference between good accountants and bad accountants is being able to see that picture. And, you're saying it, I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. But then I'm now sort of sitting in the background. I'm like, I do. Mine's little T accounts, but they're in the same places, and it's sort of the same picture. So that makes sense. A couple of things though. You would have loved my qualification. I have a BCom in accounting for chartered accountants. a 3-year undergrad program, no fluff. Like my biggest fluff course was Statistics 101.
Which I
So
probably would have enjoyed anyway. So
yeah, it was a fun subject. I enjoyed it. Not the best lecturer, but we did well. So no fluff courses, none of this stuff. I just, it was just pure, like, this is to become a chartered accountant, become a CPA. This is all you have to do. So that made my life easier. Two, doing high school and college together, like I can barely comprehend it. Like I just learned not so long ago that people can do college credit in high school. Like I was like, what? What are you guys talking about? Which I thought was pretty cool. I don't think that exists back in South Africa, but that you're basically running your whole college qualification while doing the same is super impressive.
yep. One of the great parts back then, it's different today, at least in California. I don't know about every state, but is back then at least when you did college credit going to a junior college, it was free. When you were a high school student, I think it's free across the board now, at least
Yeah.
for the tuition piece. But that was incredible then, because that was a huge cost savings by doing it in high school and taking the college class at the same time.
Yeah, that I didn't know that part of it, but that's pretty exciting. I'll have to tell my kids to start working harder in high school. They're again 7 and 8, so I'll start ramming into their heads now. The one thing though, that the big point here as well is that you don't have that formal bachelor degree or diploma or whatever it is. It doesn't stop you being so successful. You might be one of the most successful people that I know. It's all on hard work, determination, and clearly a passion for what you do.
Yeah, I would say that, and it's also going back to the vision and direction. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you get up in the morning, you know what you want to do. Like, it's easy to grind through getting tons of hard, boring, whatever junk done and out of the way, because you have a purpose and a passion for what you're doing. So that, I would say, is what helps give me motivation to get all that done. I mean, one of the things I'm currently working on is a little bit new of an experience, but I'm going through my Series 766 certification or licenses for wealth management. And so I have my Series 7 exam actually scheduled for Friday this week.
Oh wow.
So that will be around the corner here. So by the time this gets published or whatever, probably I'll be done with that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm off to the 66, and recently in the last couple of years, they added an SIE exam at the front end of both of those. So I did that a month or two ago. But yeah, it's that I would say it's just a desire to learn, desire to continue growing, and continue serving my clients holistically. Because the more we can provide to them, completing the circle, I would say, of client service. So we help a client get started, form their business. We help them with their accounting then, and doing their bookkeeping, and we help them with their tax preparation. But it doesn't just stop with tax preparation. It goes into tax planning and tax strategy. That's where we can help them save their money. So we help them grow their money and then save their money. And then what do we do with that? Well, wealth management is kind of the missing piece in the circle, that we can help them save or grow their money then after they've earned their money. But in that category, what I'm actually most passionate about in there is helping people think through where and how they invest, not just areas of maximizing greatest ROI or return on investment, but more of a concept of thinking. So there's concepts of values-based investing, VBI. There's for Christians, there might be BRI, which is biblically responsible investing, or
Mm-hmm.
for others, maybe it's ESG, environmental, social governance, whatever. Those kind of categories, and they're not the same categories, but I'm very passionate about those types of things and helping people think about the power of investing, and where they invest, because think of all the good that we can accomplish with the money that we've been blessed with. And it's not just about us, it's about blessing others with what we've been given. And investing is a huge opportunity to do that. Think about all the businesses that fail because they can't get off the ground with cash flow. And all the good things that could revolutionize the world. Cancer could be cured. Lots of different things could be solved if there was investors willing to step forward and put their money into these different companies. So all kinds of incredible opportunities out there. And it's just about looking for the best companies that are actually contributing to the common good of society rather than those that are extracting good from society. So that those companies are the ones that I'm concerned about, but there are tremendous opportunities on the other end to do incredible good.
Yeah, this is, what is it now? March, so a couple of 6 months ago, I started hearing about all these different categories and how there are, specific wealth firms out there right now that's all they do. They sort of figure out how to help people. And, a lot of the times they're either the person's full advisor or they partner with a bigger advisory firm. They're like, hey, they have a percentage of their money that they want to put to this portion, and these specialists come in that understand it and able to vet that it's really trying to do good and not just like some face for a sweatshop or anything like that. It's very, very intriguing and something I've been interested in reading up on a lot. And I shouldn't be surprised that this is something that Caleb is clearly finding interesting and a place that is close to his heart, because he is an incredible person, and giving back to the community and giving so much of his time to important causes is a lot of what I find inspiring about Caleb. So should we just use this as a segue and talk to us about sort of some of your outreach work that you do?
Sure, that'd be fine. So back in 2013, I took a trip down to Haiti. This I think is where you're interested in hearing.
Mm-hmm. It's a good starting point.
There's other opportunities too, but that trip was an incredible trip. It was to learn. I'd known about a program. It was called the SALT program, that stands for Shared Accountability, Lending, and Teaching. And I traveled there to learn about this program. It was with a group of other accountants, and they were just seeking input and advice and opinions on how to make the program better. And it was also to get excitement for donors, whatever, to try to encourage growth in the program. And on that trip, one of them pulled me aside and was like, "Hey," actually, a couple different people pulled me aside at different organizations down there, and they're like, "Hey, we need a bookkeeper. Can you come work for us?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." I kept telling everybody no because that wasn't what I wasn't wanting to move down there. I wasn't wanting to. I mean, I maybe thought about it briefly, but it wasn't what my passion was. And so, but over time, after I came home, then the SALT program continued reaching out to me, and so I talked to him about it a little bit, and we kind of made plans for a trip, and then that kind of fell through. And then later they had an incident where there was an issue with one of their employees had taken some money. It was a small amount in USD, but a large amount in their economy. And that really broke the trust of the people that the SALT program was trying to serve. And so they were like, "Hey, we really need to do something better." So I'm like, okay, maybe that created fire underneath my seat, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I need to go. So I need to start helping, whatever. And so I scheduled a trip for May of 2015, so a year and a half later. And from there, I helped them get set up with QuickBooks and just did a lot of the normal stuff that I work with businesses throughout the U.S. on. And it was a very very exciting trip because it was a way that I could give forward to others based on what I had been blessed with. And through that, though, I learned so many different things that changed and revolutionized the way that I think about the world and think about the work that I do. And really, it's about categorizing need into different buckets or categories. So there's what's called crisis or chronic poverty, or crisis or critical poverty, and then there's chronic poverty on the other end. And the crisis or critical is really like the result of a disaster or an earthquake or a tsunami or a hurricane or war or famine. It's typically something that happens to you, not something that it's been just bad decisions or whatever. But chronic poverty is typically bad decisions that have been generational. So grandparents were in the same boat, parents were in the same boat, we're in the same boat today. And so responding to those two different types of poverty are completely different types of responses, or should be different responses. And far too often we treat them the same way by accident, just because it's easy to respond to the critical or crisis poverty. We can see right in front of us what the need is. They need food, they need clothing, they need water, they need shelter, they need whatever the case may be. They need protection from war. They need maybe the refugees fleeing from something. They need housing. Whatever the case may be. There's a need that we can see right in front of us. But what's far more difficult is a chronic, because the need on the surface appears almost identical. But behind the curtain, when you dig underneath the surface, it's far more complex. And a lot of times it's a lack of education, it's a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of experience, it's a lack of hope. Ultimately, it is the biggest barrier to them for success is they have no hope. They feel like the system is against them. They feel like they can't succeed. So it's more of an emotional or a psychological or even a spiritual need that individuals have in chronic poverty. And so thinking about that, like that's very true of a lot of the different types of work that we do on a day-to-day basis. So I think there at Scaling New Heights, I gave a couple different examples of different types of situations and categorizing these needs and how we can actually dig underneath the surface and try to analyze and dig into what the root cause of the problem is. So one of my favorites is as an example, is I might have a business client that is struggling with cash flow, and they reach out to me because they can't make payroll next week and they need a short-term loan. Well, there's great apps out there. I mean, that you can get a loan through QuickBooks Capital or get a term loan through Smart Business Loans or finance an invoice through Fundera, or there's dozens of apps that will help with that problem. Well, and that may be the ultimate thing that I do. But if I stop right there, am I actually hurting or am I helping the problem? And a lot of people would initially respond that you're helping because you're solving the need that's right in front of you. But most cases, I'm probably actually hurting rather than helping. And if I try to understand that, if I actually help them, maybe, yes, I do help them get access to the financing right now, but I'm going to try to solve why are they in this situation to begin with. And that's digging underneath the surface to maybe it's a people problem. Maybe they don't have the right people on their team and they've got way too much payroll costs. Or maybe they're not producing enough as a company, so they're not bringing enough revenue to cover their costs. Or maybe it's a pricing problem. Maybe they're doing all good work and et cetera, but they haven't raised their prices in 10 years, and costs go up over time. That's what inflation is, what we've experienced the last 5 years at a much higher level. So a lot of times you got to dig into that and try to understand that in a lot more detail. So it's an area that there's not one answer that fits all solutions. It's really an analytical experience. You got to work with the individual, work with the business to try to find what the root cause is. And that becomes now our target, to try to solve for that root cause problem, instead of just treating the surface symptoms. So through that, I mean, I've learned so much, and there's so much that I am inspired now to help other accountants and other business individuals to learn ways to give forward to others too. Through my experiences, I would say it's revolutionized the way that I do work, the why for why I do work, because it's a way to help others and give back to and give forward to others, just like I was blessed and encouraged. I mean, I think about all the individuals that have invested into me, titans of the accounting space, like Joe Woodard and like Doug Sleater, and I mean, I could go down a laundry list of everybody that has invested in me, and I look out and I think, man, I've barely touched anybody comparatively to everybody that's invested in me. So I've got tremendous amounts of work to do to continue giving forward to others.
I want you all this to be really incredible and inspiring. And Caleb, that story is amazing. The analogy how it forms into the way you do business, the way you help people. I mean, it's such a great lesson for a lot of accountants, consultants out there. We're always sort of so focused on let's just put a patchwork on, let's just fix it, just keep moving, just get the boat. Instead of let's pull the boat out of the water, let's repair what it is. So we don't keep getting that patch, just fix it going on. I mean, we see it in our business all the time. Like, oh, we're running out of cash. Like, yeah, you are selling wine at no margin. Like, you can't do it, right? Like, we got to fix that. You got to reduce your costs, increase your prices, or discontinue that line. Like, you've got to make a change, else you're going to be the same problem. It's a good way to think about trying to help people solve their problem in the long term rather than just patch it. And obviously, you can patch it along the way, and you should patch it along the way because, especially in a payroll situation, you don't want people to go unpaid. But help them fix it. Like, that's what we should be doing. That's where the value add is at the end of the day.
And that's ultimately, in my opinion, that's ultimately what advisory work is. That's the buzz in our industry, is switching from compliance to advisory. And really, advisory is an area where you're not just doing a tax return, you're not just doing a bank reconciliation, you're not just doing a financial statement or whatever. You are trying to help the business in a unscripted way, help them understand how to solve their problems, how to solve the root problems, not just treating the surface symptoms.
Yeah. And I would say to that, start to learn to really listen to your clients. Don't just don't just half hear their words and start solving the problem. Really listen to what they're saying to you. Because 99% of the time, they're going to tell you what the problem is, but you actually have to listen. Like, it's in between the lines, right? There's a little bit of, I don't know, embarrassment that things aren't working out. So they're trying to tell you, they're trying to get the help, but you need to really learn to listen, pay attention, and answer the questions that they're really asking if you want to be a good advisor. Caleb, can you give me some insight into what your day-to-day looks like?
Well, right now it's get up and study, and et cetera. But my normal day-to-day is, I mean, I typically get up about 5:40 or something in the morning and get ready in the morning, take an hour or so, and I typically listen to the Bible in the morning, and then I maybe listen to some other podcasts, maybe get ready for I have a pretty slow morning, and then around 7:30 or something, start work for the day. I typically, not every day, but I typically still go into the office every day. Most of our team works in person. And so typically I would be at the office by 7:30, sometimes earlier than that, sometimes later, depends on the day. But, and then during the day, like I probably, I probably do everything the wrong way. But I look at my email, clear out my email at the beginning of the day. I respond to as much stuff as I can, forward as much stuff as I can to other team members to try to have them work on the problems or items that come up inside of there. I look at my schedule for the day, try to see what meetings I have for the day, and then kind of map out what I'm going to try to get done for the day. And then periodically, at least once a week, I try to think about the bigger pictures, things that I really need to accomplish. Since I'm in the tax business, our work is kind of cyclical. I have a built-in calendar that I've got certain things that need to be done during times of the year. So my developmental and experimental phase of the business is typically May through November, not December through April. And so, like, if I am wanting to go learn a new item, if I'm wanting to try out a new software application, if I'm wanting to do any of that type of stuff, I try to get all that done during the May to November timeframe. so that way I'm not upsetting the apple cart during tax season. Beyond that, like typically, I mean, I probably work too much too, but most days I'd wrap up 6 or so in the afternoon or evening, and then a lot of times I have social events and things in the evening with our church group or whatever. I have a lot of guests at my house through the year, so typically at least not the last couple months because I've been studying, but as more so. But most of the time, I would have guests at my house at least once a week for either a Bible study or church or guests after church on Sunday, whatever, for a meal or whatever, or barbecue on Saturday night, or a ping pong tournament, or lots of that type of stuff. So yeah, I like to work inside of our community and give forward in that way too.
Community is important to you?
Absolutely.
Obviously do a lot of the church and then a lot of the accounting community as well. I know you're one of the most beloved people in that accounting community. I mean, what do you get from the community? What value does it add to your life?
It inspires me. And seeing others grow, seeing others change. I mean, that's powerful. And I feel like back to my earlier comment, so many have invested in me in different ways. I have a responsibility to give back to others too. It's not just a I I don't know, I feel like it today and I don't feel like it tomorrow, whatever. It's like all of my life should be giving forward or giving to others. I mean, of course, in giving, there's a element of giving that is when you give, you get something in return for it. Almost every case, it's not like you're just depleting yourself. Giving is every time I've ever given in any way I've ever given, I've got back so much more than I've ever given. And so, like, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna pick on something I saw on X last week, which is someone made the comment about community groups starting up and how it's a split focus of time and attention, and if you're so successful, just dive into your business and grow your business. And I saw it and I quote tweeted it, and I'm like, hey, sometimes it's not just about ourselves. Sometimes it's about giving to others. And it doesn't have to be that we're trying to make profit over here and make profit over here, and we're just trying to do all this stuff. Sometimes it's like, hey, I've experienced something that has revolutionized my world, and I want to revolutionize your world too, so that we can all succeed. And there's a saying that a rising tide lifts all boats, whatever. It's very true.
Mm-hmm.
I think our world today is very different than the world of 40, 50 years ago, where a lot more was seen as competition. And so if we are competing with each other, like, of course, I don't want to give to you if we're competing with each other, because I want to protect what's mine. But if I think that by giving to you, I'm going to help you, and by so doing, you're going to help me in return, of course, I want to lift everybody. And so many times that's been true in my life and my career, is by giving to others, they've given back to me.
Yeah, 100% agree. I know I freak out some of my competitors because I'm always open to like share thoughts and send referrals their way if it doesn't like, and that they just don't get it. They don't understand it. And people are wondering about the giving portion and the receiving portion. Go read the book Go Givers. The last rule in there is the law of receptivity, and that is being open to receiving gifts as well. You can't just continuously give. You'll eventually get depleted. Caleb, you mentioned earlier that your parents taught you to be a leader rather than a follower. What does that mean to you?
So I think it can be taken in different ways that sometimes is not healthy, because sometimes you should be a follower too.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can be, today's election day, whatever, not everybody can be president. Not everybody
Yep.
can be whatever. That sometimes we have to follow, and I think it's good to learn the experience of being a follower too. That's obeying the laws that exist, obeying, doing the right thing, etc. But on the other end, it is good to be aspirational, and to set forward a path and a vision for where you want to go. And that, I think, is the gist of leading, is setting a target, having a vision, and having the mission purpose to get there, and inspiring others along the way to come alongside you and accomplish that goal.
Love it. What advice would you have to others for them to be better leaders in their business and their communities?
If you don't have a vision, go back and search your inner being, and see where you come. As Joe Woodard says pretty regularly, vision is the intersection of your higher principle that you follow, and the good that you want to see in the world, and what you're uniquely gifted to do. So you combine those three things together, and that is the makings or the shaping of your vision. So really think about what your vision is, and hone in on it, and then go full bore on that. Sometimes the other thing about vision is vision can be divisive too. And we don't like to think of it that way, but vision, if you're just accepting of everything and anything, then going back to depletion, you're going to get depleted because you don't have the bandwidth to be able to do everything to all people at all times. But if you have vision, and you say, we're going to accomplish X, and whatever X is, we're going to go all in on that. That means sometimes you might have a team member that's not a good fit for X. Sometimes you have clients that are not a good fit for X. Sometimes you have products or services that you're offering that are not a good fit for whatever X is. And so if you hone in on X, it can be divisive, but it can also be a way that you can go much deeper, much faster by focusing on what your X is.
Incredible. Caleb, for the young people out there that are listening and that are maybe contemplating becoming accountants, what advice do you have for them?
Oh boy, that's a good one. I love that one. So I would say, I mean, if you are contemplating it, what I would do is talk to accountants. I mean, one of the best ways is go to an accounting conference and just learn. And you would get inspired at the accounting conference. You might get overwhelmed, but it's a way to shape your opinion of what's actually happening in the real world and the upcoming, what you can be as an accountant. The other thing that I would say is, if you're actually serious about going down the path, get certified as a QuickBooks Pro advisor, as a Xero advisor, whatever path you're going to go there. Learn your products very well. That will provide you so many opportunities to expand your horizons, and then get involved in communities that exist too. So there's various Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, and start joining those groups and learning from others. Follow communities on X, whatever, what used to be called Twitter, and start going to conferences again. Conferences is a great way to build relationships. So that's where, I mean, I know we had connected on LinkedIn, but for me, like, I really didn't know you till you came up to me after my session at Scaling New Heights. But ever since then, like, I feel like I mean, I don't know you terribly well, but I feel like I know you at least in part now. Because after that, like, I looked you up online, and I'm like, hey, who is this guy I mean, and so whenever I see you in the future at conferences, like, I'm always gonna say hi, and I'm gonna try to understand what's happening in your world. But that's the power of community, and the power of learning together.
Like, last question. Tell us something about you that's a little interesting that you haven't shared already. The young accountant, the person that's out there helping make it a better world. But what else can you tell us about us to sort of give us an insight into who Caleb the person is?
Boy, so I already said that I have 7 siblings.
Yep.
So that's one thing that a lot of people, I mean, may not know. I'm not married, don't have a kid, so that does provide me the capability to do a lot of things that maybe I wouldn't be able to do if I was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I won't. I will always be in that state, but that's
Yep.
where I'm at today. Other things about me, boy. Bought my house, bought my first house, my only house I ever bought when I was 26. That was a really fun thing.
And I remind
Actually,
you guys, he
just
lives in California, where this is a
just
massive
just just
achievement.
just after I was just after I turned 26, so I started the process when I was 25, so that was fun.
Yep.
And then let's see here. I've traveled internationally. Let's see here, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 times. And I love to travel internationally. I haven't done anything this year, but I hope to next year again. Last year, at the end of the year, I went to Qatar and Bangladesh. So that was, both of those were fun places to go to. What other things? I
That's
mean,
perfect. Thanks for sharing so much, Caleb. I really appreciate it and really learned so much from you today. On Protea Conversations, we like to end with 5 rapid fire questions. If you're ready, I can get them
sure.
going. What is your dream vacation?
Boy, it sounds like an easy question, but it's kind of a hard question because really my dream, I don't have a what would be considered a normal vacation probably in mind, but I would
Mhm.
love to visit every single of the 27, 28 countries that the SALT program operates in.
Yeah,
And I hope to accomplish that someday.
that sounds like a great way to spend time. Number 2, do you prefer audiobooks or paper books?
So very much so paper books, but I have been growing in the audiobook realm, and particularly what is of a dividing line in my, and this might be a crazy dividing line, but when the author reads their own book, I can listen to the audiobook. If it's someone else reading the audiobook, it's really hard. So pick like John Maxwell. Uh, I've listened to 2 of his books, one that he read and one that another person read. World of difference in the learnings that I picked up. Like when I listened to him reading his book, it was like I was sitting there listening to him talk to me face to face, and it was just him. You have all the voice
Yeah.
inflections of the person. So still paperback or hardback.
Yep.
Hardback would be my choice, but I mean I'm growing on audiobooks, so.
Perfect. Number 3, what is a quality you appreciate in a good friend?
Oh boy, I would say passion.
Good one. A favorite book you can recommend everybody reads?
Favorite book. Okay, this one's a little bit interesting, but it's an old book. It's a fiction. I don't typically read a lot of fiction, but is one called Ishmael. It's
Ishmael.
by an author, Eden Southworth. I think it was written in the either late 1700s or early 1800s. But it's a fascinating book. There's a sequel to it called Self Raised too.
Okay.
That they're just incredible books.
I'll have to go find it. Last question. What was your favorite childhood meal?
Um, Favorite childhood meal. So one that was I think this is outside of just our my grown up environment, but we called it Hawaiian meal. So it's like croutons and then rice and then gravy, and then there's like typically chicken, and then there's coconut and some other, I mean, all lettuce and cilantro and celery and a whole bunch of other toppings on it. But yeah, kind of like straw hats, if you've ever had straw hats. Okay, maybe that's another one of them. So that's like chili
Okay.
on top of chips, whatever. And then you
Yeah,
have cheese and lettuce and, I mean, hot sauce and salsa and whatever on top of it. But probably those 2 meals were 2 of my favorites.
they both sound delicious. They sound like winners. Caleb, I appreciate the time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussions have given you valuable takeaways. Remember that each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.